Hello everybody and welcome to the Adventures of the Windswift. It's a full team as usual. So without any delays, let's get to it. Dice of Destiny says the cats today will be doing our review, as cats seem to be everywhere. Right, so number 2 is, well, that's me again. Didn't I do it last time, I think? I'm going to use a different dice. 2. Okay, well, there we go. Says 2, says 2. There.
Destiny has spoken.
Destiny has spoken. It's not in my hands anymore. All right, so the Adventures of the Windswift last week saw our intrepid teams leaving the city of Ghent and heading out towards the Duke-controlled territory of Drakenmoore, which is an inhospitable place of warm and welcoming people, and they particularly like those who have got warm blood in their veins for various reasons. I won't
They
go
invite you for dinner.
Yes, exactly. They invite you for dinner, for lunch, or for breakfast if they happen to not have had much to eat in the last week. So I'm not going to go into too much detail as to what is all about Drakenmoore. We're going to have our resident guide take us through that when they arrive, which is as soon as we start, because we're going to use the Druid portals to sap travel from Ghent all the way across to the Musha Bog, which is the last piece of Drakenmoore that contains normal trees. And that is all I'm going to say on that matter. As our party steps through, you all have that wonderful water-like sap feeling draining away from you as you arrive in the Musha Bog and are confronted by this terrifically swamp-like area of rotten reeds and broken down logs and just a general mess of detritus and swampy, boggy, marshy area. There is one benefit, however. It's fairly cold and there don't seem to be very many insects flying. You have stepped out from a rather sick, sad-looking tree, and you realize it's one of the few left standing in this entire bog area. It's very low land, low grasses, lots of sort of pools of brackish alkaloid water, and nothing much else.
Just remember, everyone, not every log is a log.
Wait.
Right. Do you want to take points to be log spotter? Or not log spotter, I suppose?
Well, in theory, I guess I ought to be doing that since my home country is quite good at having logs that aren't actually logs.
What are you guys talking about?
Well, I mean, if you go into the technicalities, everything in the universe is either a log or not a log. So,
And I wanted to give you a present.
what?
No present for you.
Oh, come on, please. I was just kidding. I'll never say that again. I promise.
Right,
Kind
well,
of looking up in the sky, trying to get my bearings north, south, east, west.
Sure, give me a nature check. Survival check, sorry.
14.
14. All right. You are approximately, you think, about 40 miles, maybe 50 miles from Ulkov, which is to the northeast of where you are.
And I can get my north, south, west,
Yes,
east kind of bearings.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's not very difficult here. You have the Ulsojar Mountains to your south. They should be pretty prominent.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Whiskers, if you behave yourself, you get your present.
Nice. I will try.
I guess
That
that's
was
all
not
I
a dead
can ask.
mouse. That's
It
cool.
really is.
Jorek starts slushing towards the northwest.
So, assuming this is a
Northeast.
bog,
Northeast, yes. See, I already messed it up.
so I assume since this is a bog, a horse isn't actually very beneficial, right?
No, the movement is quite difficult. You have to sort of step on the tufts of grass. You put your foot right in the middle of the tuft rather than next to it, because it's just.
So this is basically like the Land of Dead or the Moor of Dead from Lord of the Rings. when Frodo
Yes,
and-
that's a pretty close kind of analogy as well. Absolutely.
let's not have any
Nice.
never-ending story reenactments.
No.
Oh, attacks!
Is your horse particularly sad? Because let's just keep him out of this. yeah, I guess I sort of wanted to throw a glance at Saket, because usually Saket's dress is not made for cold weather.
I'm pretty cold, and I'm not impressed about what the bog is doing to the bottom of my robes at all.
I'm just gonna hand her my silk coat. I have fur. I'm fine. I'm not cold.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
I think
I'm also
with
going to
the
ruin your silk coat. Well, I suppose I
don't
could
worry about it. I have
put my
magic.
side.
Fix that.
Let's just get out of here. This is miserable.
Really is.
I agree.
I think we can comfort ourselves in knowing that Drakenmoore itself is going to be even worse.
I was just about to
enjoy it
say,
while
this
it
is
lasts.
probably the most pleasant part of Drakenmoore.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Why did we come here again?
Save my sister. Let's go.
Yes, who's taking point? Con said you were taking point, is that right?
I guess that would be me with my staff, prodding things, looking for solid patches, or at least more solid patches to walk on.
Mostly solid.
Yeah. I'm following tight behind.
Yes, unfortunately, this is like Schrodinger's swamp, because the moment you put your sort of staff down, it seems solid, and you're fairly certain it's solid, and then you step on the bloody thing, and the whole thing just sinks down. So it's oftentimes it's more than it's like 50-50, really.
It's like thin ice.
Yeah,
like the hand seems fine, but as long as they really weight on it. Like,
Exactly right.
Good.
Correct. So, Con, you're faced with a bit of a dilemma. You have two paths that immediately present themselves to you. You've been going for about an hour through this swamp. It's not fast going. You're traveling at about 4.5 miles, 4.5 kilometers, which is what, 8 miles, roughly 7 miles, somewhere around there. Going fairly slowly as you make your way through this insipid place. But you have got to the point now where you reckon you don't think you're near the edge of the swamp, because you certainly can't see the edge of the damn swamp. But you have two options available to you. One is to swim across a rather large channel of water. River would be too optimistic. It doesn't seem to be moving very much at all. But it's a swim of about 100 feet. The alternative is to follow the course of the river, but the course of the river goes east and west, not north or south. And you're not sure if you're going to find a better spot to cross. You think that at some point the river should once again clog up, so you should be able to cross at some point.
I kind of take. Okay. Whiskers.
If I may arrange a passage. I'm gonna sort of,
Sure.
I mean, we're going this way, right? Straight across?
Well, this would be the most direct route. but,
All right, then. Everybody
got
needs to
another
try this.
spell.
And I'm going to cast Control Water. And I'm going to cast sort of part the ocean like a furry
No.
Moses.
What Moses?
Yeah, a furry historical Cathar. You wouldn't know.
He was pretty.
Phosis.
Yeah.
Yes.
You summon forth this tremendous spell, and for a moment the water seems to resist you, not wanting to part, and then all of a sudden it just recedes upwards and stretches out in front of you. The ground that is now presented to you is this thick, muddy river bottom that you can try and cross. There's some rotting debris, and by the looks of things, there are several very rotting corpses that have been snagged underneath very large wooden tree trunks and crammed into rock gullies. Most of the corpses are of it looks to be horses, cattle. You don't want to look at it too closely because it has all been down here for quite some time and has slowly been rotted away.
So taking a look into the group, no one of them is particularly heavy, right? Maybe Saket from all the bacon, but otherwise.
I think Con's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, Con is probably the biggest one, yeah.
Yeah,
Because we have like one half height cat. We have two elves, which generally are a little bit on the slimmer side.
And I keep saying this, I can eat what I like and not put on weight.
It's nice to have fantasies like this, right? In a fantasy,
Oh,
world,
nice.
Normally
it is.
This is why we game, everybody.
I kind of look at
Oh,
at the muggy, rotten-smelling, generally unpleasant bed of the river, and I just say, "I'm not going through there. Anyone else does not want to go through there?"
well, it's better than swimming.
I'll clean your shoes afterwards if that's what you want.
Yeah.
All of our shoes?
And kind of
Yes.
shadow starts to pour out of Atra, and as the shadow kind of starts to dissipate and disappear, wings have grown, and so like, I can ferry one person across. You don't look too heavy.
Take Con, he's heaviest.
I am quite all right. I can walk.
All right.
I start walking.
Just do me a favor, stay away from the trees. And I start walking across the river.
Yeah, I'll come along.
All right, so
No,
Yeah, we
I'm
have
dead.
about 10 minutes, so
Atra's flying Saket across, and the three of you are trudging across.
Yeah.
I want to see if there's anything interesting on any of these corpses as we pass.
So
Anything
basically,
Glinting.
what I'll do is I'll put my arms underneath hers and then start to heavily move her across, because obviously carrying something is quite
Pain.
hard flying wise, right? Like this.
If Adrusai is making a move towards any of the courses, Jorek will grab their sleeve and no, I said, stay away from the trees.
What? But I'm not. It's not a tree.
Stay away
It's
from. Trust me. Stay away
Okay,
from the trees.
Fine.
Why do you think
Fine.
these animals are down here?
I don't. Drowning, I assumed.
Yes, by the trees. Let's go.
All right. You're the local.
You're the local.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
The trees drown people?
Adrusai, are you still kind of casting a glance as you're skirting around these trees?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I'm still gonna look.
Oh, a book.
Yeah. Absolutely. Throw a little
You're on your own,
back.
Jorek. I disown you.
So yeah, it's not pleasant because the river mud is quite thick. It quite happily sucks away at your boots, and well, in your case, yes, it's just you start wearing boots of mud as this stuff sort of builds up around you. You sort of slog through it. Atramentum and Saket are on the other side of the river, looking quite smart with themselves because they are not covered in stuff. I want all three of you that are in the middle of the river, if you please, to give me a perception check.
Ooh.
Natural 20.
Natural 20. Okay.
14.
14. That's right. With Adrusai's acuity, none of you are in trouble. Well, you're in trouble, but none of you are not seeing the trouble. That's the problem. The walls of the water on either side, although they are this brackish sort of khaki, avocado green kind of color, every now and again there's ripples that form on the sides of the walls. And these shapes, probably about, I don't know, 30, 40 foot in length, these dark shadows slowly drift past the sides of these walls of water and move around them. Now, I couldn't see anywhere where it said that that's a force wall. It's just the parting of the water. So every now and again, this very dark, scaly tail sort of breaks out of the side of the wall, dripping water, and then kind of pulls back in again. Very long-bodied creatures. What's confusing is every now and again you see flecks of white shining through as well. It looks like exposed bone, but they're definitely following you to the shore's edge as you are stalking your way towards the riverbank.
And those
just
are not
carrying
trees. I don't assume those are the trees, right?
Keep moving.
No, those are probably not trees. Those are probably some other form of undead abomination that lives in these swamps.
Maybe they're one of Con's logs.
Yes.
They kind of look like a log.
Yes,
That's true.
Yes, they do indeed. Yeah, you continue to slog through this mud. It's cold. It gets colder as you kind of go along. The one thing that's lying in amongst one of these trees, Adrasai, because you said you're keeping a watch out, is there is an animal. Is it a gazelle of some kind or an antelope? It's not entirely sure. You can sort of see these curved horns sticking out. But it looks as if there is a piece of very shiny, very silver chain that has kind of got snagged around one of the horns.
Is it far away, or is it like
it's
right
just
next
entangled.
to the...
It's entangled in a bunch of trees about 15 feet away from you.
All right, I'm gonna sort of slowly veer towards that side, and just sort of the entire thing sort of moves with me. Like trying to discreetly, but like the entire river sort of
Yes.
does that.
All right, so you're starting to ooze over.
Yes.
Jorek, you going to say anything?
Apparently not.
Apparently
I
not.
rolled for it.
All right. Con, you're
There
at the
comes a
front.
point
You're
where
kind
you
of...
just can't stop them.
Yeah, I'd say you're leading the charge, but it's more like you're leading the waddle or the I'm not sure what it is. It's the suck is what you're leading.
Yes,
basically.
it is the suck, guy.
Yeah. Adrasai, you get close to this thing and you realize that it's actually it's the remains of a tiefling that has been caught up in this sort of tree type of structure. And yeah, the silver is a chain that hangs. It was obviously hanging around its neck, but has obviously sort of been with water movement and whatever has now got caught up around its horns. You can reach that chain without a problem once you're standing quite close to the body.
Yep, I'll take it.
You grab it. What's your armor class, just out of curiosity? Not that.
Oh, just asking for no
Just
reason.
asking for a friend. Yeah.
It's 13.
Okay. All right. 13, you say. Let's see what happens. So you're standing there. In the meantime, while I'm adding up these numbers, you can give me a dexterity saving throw, if you please.
Oh dear.
Ooh. Man, I'm great at saving throws.
So once the cat and I are on the other side of the river,
Yes.
kind of setting her down into the muck again. I guess there's no really another option here. And
Want the
kind of
muck
coming
or
down.
the watering muck.
The extreme
Putting
muck.
Sakia down and she sinks another like 3 feet.
That is an 11.
Okay.
Yuck.
And the wings kind of disappear into smoke.
All right. I'm just doing some hectic mathematics here. You got an 11. Yeah, that's not fantastic. That's not a great number to get.
It's not a great
Do
number.
mathematics to realize that.
No, it's to add the damage here because it's
At this point, you can just say that my saving throws is not great from experience.
Yeah.
Do not need to count.
It's okay. You take 37 points of damage
What?
as the tree suddenly just wraps around you, and its roots and branches just impale into you, completely encage you.
Damn. All right. 37.
That's why I was doing the
Well,
maths. I
Dark
didn't
did
roll well
roll,
either.
Yeah.
So
Actually not down though, which is impressive. But I do need to roll a concentration
Yeah, I constantly.
thingy
oh yes, that would be a second bad
with a
thing to have.
spell.
Being in the middle of the river.
Is this just a regular Constitution save?
Yeah,
DC is
Yeah.
what?
DC
30
My
Okay, guy, before you roll, guy,
Yes.
was this one instance of damage or was this multiple instances?
2 instances of damage. It was
What
2
was the
different
higher
types.
one?
19.
So DC is 10, because otherwise DC would have been 17.
ooh,
Oh, it's-
that's
Oh,
high.
I rolled 10. Is that a fail?
the 10 is make it. Like, 10 is 10.
Oh,
I understand. Okay.
oh, whew, oh.
Well,
Thank
this
goodness
round,
for my
you
transmuter stone.
hold it. Yes. You are unfortunately grappled by this tree now in this
Yes.
instance.
You hear this from the cat.
Yes. We go into initiative
I'm
now.
going to cast Misty Step as a bonus action.
Yes, I suppose you can do that. Absolutely. Well, then we
I
don't
would
roll
like to do
initiative, so
that.
let's do that. Fine, sure. You misty step out of it. Not a problem.
Yes, 30 feet away.
Yep. Closer to the shore, I assume.
Into the water.
No,
Out of the frying pan.
in a
into
random
fire.
direction. No, towards the sea, and I sort of stagger to my feet, sort of
Right.
bleeding, and shaking.
Yes. You are all aware, as Adrasai stands there bleeding, that the rest of the foliage in this river is now starting to move towards the bleeding bloody ground.
So how quick is this tree moving?
Oh, not quick at all. It doesn't pose any kind of threat as long as you're aware of it. It will probably, the 30 feet that she covered, it'll probably take it maybe an hour to get to the point where it can then sort of attach to the ground.
So sleeping might not be good. Everything
Yes,
else.
let's just mosey along to the shore.
How far along is Con?
Basically at the other side of the
All right.
river now.
Jorek just keeps slooshing, and you can hear muffled curses coming from behind you, other side.
Yes. Sorry. I know you said
Them to
you
be
said,
careful.
Yeah, you said I'm
Stay away
sorry.
from the damn trees, but no shiny things. You just have to fiddle with things.
Just have to do things. All right.
When are you gonna listen to me, Adrasai?
I'm working on it.
I recall that you left the village of Gyron-Ghent at night, or in the late afternoon, if that is correct. Does someone correct me if I'm wrong?
I think we didn't plan this out, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no, I
think you
think
left
so.
at late evening. So as you get to the side of the river and you recollapse the wall of water, night falls.
Covered in mud and blood
Yes.
and just ow.
And cold. The temperature is starting to sink down. There's also a bizarre fog which is starting to gather in the corners of the
Crap.
sort of vision.
Not
that starts to
okay.
build.
Not okay.
All right, we're gonna have to build a camp somewhere in an open space that is not near any trees, and we're going to need a real roaring fire.
Oh, wait. Should I be casting that little tiny hut thing? Not that it's tiny. But we
Oh,
could...
yes, please.
That's
tiny,
not a bad
But
idea.
it's bigger on
I think
the
it's
inside
9 square
than the
meters,
outside.
right?
A sort of
Yeah.
Yeah,
As,
like a
um,
dome of 10 feet or something.
as I'm casting prestidigitation to get rid of all the mud, I'm going to walk up to Atramentum and hold up the silver chain. Here, I found this. I hope it's worth
But
the
just
owl.
die.
And
I didn't give you those
Great.
options to just
Thank
carry
you.
around like trinkets.
Do Jorek see the
It
trinket?
was a tiefling in there. I thought.
Take the potion. You're bleeding.
Fine.
All right, so
Okay.
you can take the potion.
I take a look at the necklace.
Yes, the silver chain. Well, firstly, it's made out of silver, and upon it, it has.
It's made out of silver.
It's made out of silver. There we go. That's great. That's lovely. It's made out of silver, but more importantly, it certainly does resonate with a certain amount of is it magic? You'd have to spend some time looking at it. Do you have detect magic?
Sure.
Or I suppose
I want to.
identify really would be the ritual to cast.
Can do identify.
While he's doing that, Jorek's gonna look over his companions and see what are they wearing. Is
One, two,
wearing anything
three,
of silver?
4, 5.
Like,
Everybody.
what are we wearing? Is any one of you wearing anything of silver? Visibly.
Apart from the chain that Atramentum is holding in his hand.
apart from that one.
Don't
I
think so.
don't know. There might
Silver.
be some silver thread in the embroidery in my coat, but other than that, I don't think so.
I don't know if you would have seen this because I would keep it hidden underneath like some clothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have the silver stake.
Oh yeah, I know that one, and I don't think you're going to be wearing that visibly.
No, might be a little bit upsetting for the local populace.
Yes, and since the whole necklace thing showed up, Jorek's going to say, "Do me a favor while we're in here in Drakenmoore. Don't wear anything of silver openly. Keep it hidden, and do not pay anyone with silver coins. Silver is banned here in Drakenmoore, and you will probably be executed for carrying around silver. So please, do not have anything silver on you."
Nice. Good to know. Well, now we have a silver thing.
Yes, which we should probably have hidden somewhere.
So before I hide it or give it somebody else to hide, is there anything other than like a magical feeling, the magical tingles that I get from it? Like iconography, stylized, whatever that kind of.
It's definitely made by the Cabal. One of the.
Do I know
Cabals.
which one? Is there like a sign of?
This it smacks more of coming from Zagrash Hoch rather than Herbi of Kor. It's just a little bit crude. It's a little bit too showy, a little bit too flashy. It's not as subtle or as elegant as Herbi of Kor would have made. So that means it's probably one of the more thuggish kind of cabals. Right. The ones that will stab you in the face rather than poison you or work out an elaborate way to get you to kill yourself.
Or stab you in the back.
Yeah, you know, they're
gentleman-like
the rough
in the back.
types.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, they're the assassins, you know, but they would just beat you to death, and they wouldn't
thugs,
make it.
not assassins.
Yeah, thugs, exactly.
They don't they're legging the je ne sais quoi
Exactly.
of a real assassin.
Exactly right.
I would backstab you in the face if I could.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I will then do, kind of look at the necklace and say, like, this is from the thugs, minor clans, not really interesting. But maybe you want to have a look at it closer, and well, you found it, you keep it.
Oh, all right. Just thought maybe that. Fair enough.
You thought what? That I'm sentimental about failure?
I don't know. I know if I found a dead Cathar under a swamp river in a strange dead land, I might want to see the necklace it had.
Well, I saw it. Thank you.
All right, then. Very well.
Good day, sir.
Good day. This will be going in my report.
Yeah, you got a lot of those to write.
To me.
All right, so you're going to look for a campsite of some kind.
No, I'm going to cast.
You're going to cast Lemon's tiny hut. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
A relatively large patch of.
I have a feeling
dry
I
land.
probably managed to cast it after that little altercation between Adresai and Atra.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a minute now. It's ready.
All right, so you pop up your self-erecting tent, and
Relatively dry land, so we can at least
Yeah.
attempt
With the back, just like this deep in mud where you lie.
it's like great. It's a mud bath. It's healing. It's healing. I
Good for your
promise.
skin here.
Yeah, until the leeches start coming through. All right, no, I believe that the entire area is safe and warm inside it. I believe. I don't think it actually takes the property of the ground.
Yeah, and the misty mists will also stay out.
Yes. Everything basically will stay out and everything will stay in. So you have 8 hours or 6 hours, however long you want to stay, I suppose, inside this place.
8 hours. Give everyone a nice little sleep, except for
I want to get to casting detect magic as ritual before on this new thing.
All right. The
Detect magic or identify?
Identify.
Identify. All right. The necklace is simply a necklace of alter self. It will allow you to do so 10 times, and then it will no longer work.
How very interesting. I relay this to the troop.
It could come in handy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. What?
It was.
Lets you transform yourself into, like I did with the creepy old man. That, or you can do some other things with it as well, but probably less handy.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this in a bag somewhere and not take it up until we are out of Drakenmoore.
Please do.
It's silver. They don't like it here.
Well, I mean, if you
Not
wear
like we
it
go to
and
make
use
friends.
the magic, it wouldn't be visible.
Are you sure about that?
Mm-hmm.
what metal is the what do you call it? Headdress?
Tiara?
No,
Headband?
tiaras go up.
Crown.
Diadem, I suppose you would
Diadem,
call it. No, anyway.
I mean, suggest it's
which-
probably gold.
Yeah, it's probably gold if it's
Oh,
from
yeah, that's
Suggest.
fine. I
Oh,
can
yes.
get gold. I like gold. Gold looks great.
Nice. So yeah.
All right. Con, you have a look at the cat, and there is a risk of poison and diseases and stuff in this place. Just make sure they're all right.
Well, didn't he give her a healing potion?
I have my own healing potions.
Not sure that will be
Look,
enough.
I just need a long sleep and to get rid of all of this mud, and I will be fine.
Ah, okay.
One more thing. Trust me next time.
I will. I will. No shiny shall stand between us again. I give you
Good.
my word.
So,
I didn't say the trees were dangerous just to be a bad guy. They are.
No,
really
I
bad.
just didn't see it as a tree. I thought it was dead.
Mm.
guys,
But no,
They
you're
are
right.
dead.
we
That's
need
why
to
they
build
do
a
this
fire. Not bicker about the fact she can't listen. They can't listen ever. Okay, especially if it's a book. So, can we just get some nice logs, stick them all together, and then I will cast firebolt on it, which should set the damn things alight, and we can get a fire going rather than bicker, because they didn't listen.
All right,
I'm
that's what
sorry.
you're not doing. You're trying to find words. You can do that. It's not too much problem.
I do have flint and steel. If you know, I can.
Not
Yeah.
bitey wood.
On the other
Okay.
hand, getting
Not
something
spicy.
burning in the middle of a swamp can be.
I don't understand. This magical fire is not setting fire to this log.
Maybe
Yeah.
you can warm it up so all the water
I
goes
can use
out.
prestidigitation to light a small.
Fireballs will work.
Yeah, fine.
Fireballs will work.
Yeah, I checked.
Speaking of books, though, maybe we should have a conversation about this book, magical ancient book of gods that we have now. Considering
Is it the book
that,
of gods? It's
yes,
more powerful than the gods.
no, this is how the Tal were all on different subjects.
Aye.
This is on the subject of deities from what we learned at the library, which means that I think it might be rather interesting. Now, I'm still fully aware of the risks, but I feel like the context of those risks have changed a little bit since last we spoke.
And if I remember correctly, the risk is getting lost inside the book.
Getting lost and my mind never coming back out again. But we've had some success, physically dragging me out of there with, an hour or so.
Yeah, we shook you out of it at least twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the...
I still can't eat cheese.
Right, so you want to go inside and check the book now?
Not now, maybe, but I think maybe we need to recontextualize rather a lot of things. I mean, after what happened and...
But they gave the book to Mios. We don't have the book with us.
What? Did I?
Yeah,
Yes,
for safekeeping. You sent it back. with
you're
them.
right.
To the Windswift.
Fair enough.
Problem solved.
Yeah, no. Then I wouldn't look at it now, obviously.
No.
But, I think that, the context of me putting myself at risk has changed as well. And knowing what we know, I'm willing to.
And to be honest, the whole God thing, that's something I would like to have some answers about.
Exactly.
'Cause,
Like,
uh,
how powerful are the gods then? It's like books can do more than they can. I mean, this is a big question.
Well, from what I've always learned, the gods have no way of directly interfering with our reality. They have to do
they
so.
work through intermediaries. And
Yes, and from what we heard now, these dragons were intermediaries, rather powerful ones. So it's quite possible that the gods can't do much more to us than the dragons could anyway, which is not a comforting thought, but...
Guy,
Yes.
whilst they're philosophizing, I'm sat in a corner, pondering and dredging up all my druidic lore about Drakenmoore. So just some questions about what Con would know. So the druids created all these killer trees.
Well, they didn't create all of them. They created the thing that caused them to become undead.
Right.
It was basically like a rather nasty little fur fungal infection that trees often get, like a rust, if you like. And they released it in Drakenmoore. Of course, it had no risk of spreading further south because you have a gigantic desert full not of trees. So that's the process that they went about.
So it's an indiscriminate weapon?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Any foliage that got contacted by this stuff just turned nasty. So how the locals survive, you don't know. But
My druidic...
You can ask a local.
So it's these plants are not going to react in any way to the fact that I'm a druid. I'm just another piece of meat.
No, but further to that, it was perhaps impulsive of the druids to have done it, because they're no longer really trees. They're now undead beings, basically. So speak with plants doesn't work because they're undead.
Speak with dead?
Speak with dead might work, I suppose. I don't know.
Very long conversation.
Yeah, they are very long conversations too. Correct.
Brains.
So yes, that's what you kind of gathered from what you saw in the riverbed. Obviously, the trees are now. There's a certain mobility to them that they have, and you suspect that's because they don't need to basically photosynthesize. So why be mobile? The blood obviously gives them those bizarre abilities to move around, because a willow tree should not be able to wrap around a cat. It doesn't normally do that. So yeah, that's kind of what you pick up from there. And there are no druid circles obviously in Drakenmoore as a result of relationships being a little strained between the dukes and the druids.
Like a fly trap.
Yeah, correct. The druids did this basically just after the Treaty of the Orders was signed, because they were very unhappy with the entire druid idea in the first place, with the Drakenmoore idea in the first place, I should say. They weren't allowed to attack, so they just created an infection, which spread and refused to help stop it.
So this covers the whole of Drakenmoore.
Yeah, pretty much. It covers the whole of Drakenmoore, and there was a risk that it was actually going to spread to the Cathar Sodality because of sailing ships and things. So as a result, trading is quite restricted, although it is believed that the fungal is no longer, because it kind of infected everything and then had nothing left to work on. So it...
like a virus.
Yeah, like a virus, basically. So yeah. What you all would know is that there is one major export from Drakenmoore, which is called ironwood, which is the polite term for it. Most people call it bloodwood, but ironwood is the wood that comes from these trees. It's incredibly strong, very resistant to water and fire, and is used primarily in the mining industry for building props and supports.
And ironically, the undead trees don't rot.
Yes, there we go. Absolutely. So it's one of the Drakenmoore's biggest exports. So of course, it's very heavily regulated and controlled, but
need to get a load of that for the Windswift's repairs.
Yeah, it is kind of heavy, but it's quite dense wood. But it would certainly make a good hull. Absolutely, yeah. So,
all right.
Sat in the corner and wreathed in a cloud of pipe smoke as I stare into the distance.
All right. So we need to come up with a plan why we're here, because Drakenmoore is pretty much a closed country. No one comes in, no one goes out, except possibly for merchants. So we are probably going to have to pose as merchants, and we are here to buy something, preferably ironwood. It's a very popular export from Drakenmoore, and everyone wants to buy it.
How many
I
merchants?
would have preferred to have bought some copper or bronze before with the Windswift's money to bring here and to sell to give us a larger believability, but I didn't have time. So,
How many merchants come as far in as Ulkov, though? We're quite far inland.
yes, but we could always argue that we're trying to get better prices because it's not a trade port or whatever, right? We could probably work our way around that.
True.
The thing is, if someone asks who we are traders. I'm probably going to change into Ambar because I don't want to risk being recognized in here.
No, that's
Not that I was ever this far south. I lived in Taltana, which is a couple of days north of here, but still.
Am I to assume from this that trade is about the only reason foreigners might be found in the country? Other than...
Unless it's for diplomatic or personal reasons, yes. It's not easy getting access to coming in here. And quite frankly, not many people want to be here. Because the thing is, if you break any laws here, or if you even just happen to come across a really cranky sheriff, you risk ending up winning the lottery.
the lottery?
Oh, right.
I think he means you get to get killed.
Yes, but it's a little bit worse than that. The lottery, as it is called, is the Duke's way of instilling fear upon the population, keeping everyone in check.
Oh, so you're
Basically,
gonna get
all the population needs to partake in a lottery, and the one who wins the lottery, or who is chosen, becomes vampire food. And you can pay your way out of that, or you can make sure that someone else wins the lottery by ratting on them. So the populace is more than eager to sell anyone out just for the chance of not participating in the lottery this time. So,
Charming country.
indeed. So we can't even trust the populace. This is what I mean about the vampires being really bad and probably worse than the dragons.
If that's the case, is it worth us going into the general populace at all? Perhaps we should simply do this as a covert operation.
That would be a possibility. It's just that we need to have an excuse why we're here if we get found out.
Have you ever been to Ulkov, the city?
Not personally. I know my father went there on several occasions, but the furthest I've been is Drakenmoore, and that's north of here.
That makes it hard to know if we have to go through some kind of town to get to the castle or wherever, but...
Yeah, as far as I know, Allcove is on the edge of this giant swamp, so we should be able to get there relatively soon. But we should
Castle's
probably
open,
try and make our
usually.
way to dry land and enter the city from that direction, because traders would not come from the swamp.
No.
Would it be correct to say that daylight hours are more advantageous to us?
As much as there ever is daylight in Drakenmoore. Yes, you see this fog outside?
Mm-hmm.
In the daytime, it will rise and form a very heavy overcast. It is, for the most part, a magical fog to block out the sun.
So the vampires can move about during the day.
Yes, they generally don't anyway, but they can.
Awesome.
Great.
Just think of Scotland.
Nice.
Scotland in winter.
Anywhere in north in winter, yes. Simon, you had something that you wanted to say, but you were breaking up. You've got issues there.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make a comment that usually castles stay out and they're kind of identifiable as the one thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll
Correct.
see it.
You do know that Ulkov does have a town around it. All of the vampire cities do. The castles are not designed necessarily to repel gigantic invasion forces. No one wants to invade Drakenmoore.
No, they're mostly there for ostentatious reasons.
Exactly right. Think of them more as Gothic cathedrals than actual sort of
Nice.
outer bailies, inner bailies. When an army invades Drakenmoore, they're going to have to camp somewhere. The losses to the foliage will be significant, let alone anything else.
So the Ulkov Castle is a grand structure surrounded by a town. It's not a city.
More or
Yes.
less, yeah.
We're
Most
talking maybe like
most Drakenmoorian cities are designed that way. Around
what sort of population
castle.
size are we looking at here? Like
Enough
hundreds,
to sustain a
1,000?
vampire.
Yeah, not gigantic populations. Probably the actual city itself, maybe several thousand people, but it's primarily agrarian communities outside little villages, little hamlets of.
But specifically Ulkov, like what is the layout of that? Is a castle cathedral-y type thing with a town of a few thousand
Yes.
people around it, and
Correct.
no sort of outer wall around the town.
No.
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
But as I said, I've never been there, so
We will need to probably a bit more scouting to get a lay of the town and such.
sure.
Just one more thing before we all tuck in. Are we all settled into the whole collateral damage thing now after Valenhold? Is that a thing we do now, considering the stakes?
They kind of, well, the priests at least, were happy that they had, well, I don't know if they were happy, but they kind of let a dragon into the whole situation.
Valenhold was most likely going to burn horribly either way.
Yeah. I mean,
How
ultimately,
far? We were quite some distance outside of town when that dragon started freezing everything in the sight. The city was the epicenter of its blizzard attack. Collateral damage was out the window by that stage.
look at it this way, Adressai. They're all going to get reincarnated into much happier and better lives than they were about to.
Yeah, no, I was already there. I'm just thinking about you people.
I have no problem with killing people that have anything to do with dragons.
I don't have a problem with killing people.
You've
Yeah,
noticed.
that's it.
I am a realist.
I, for one, am not okay with killing innocent people, even if they are under the thumb of some clergy.
Let's
But-
put it this way: we don't go out of our way to kill innocent people.
Precisely.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm not sure how innocent they were, and I think that the life I've sent them on to is probably better than the one they were about to experience anyway.
Killing innocent
Intention-
bystanders is just, well, it's lazy.
I think there's an important distinction, Adressai. Intention does matter. We don't. There is a difference between setting out to cause maximum damage and causing significant damage as a consequence of what you're doing.
Of course. But
So-
intent isn't magical. At some point, it comes down to the tools we choose.
There is
Yes, of
ignorance.
course,
as
but
well.
that is intent. The tools we choose is intent. So the dragons have that intent. For example.
So what if we have to choose another time then? Kill a dragon and wipe out half a city along with it? Or just let it be?
I think we have to make our decisions based on the context of the situation facing us at the time.
Sure.
We can never let a dragon be. It needs to die.
We need
I'm
to
just
be somewhere
saying-
else where the dragon is not. That is my, but like,
Unfortunately, I think we've all...
I mean, I'm
sort
here
of-
with you right now. I could just fly out of here. You know this, right?
Yes.
We know. We're grateful that you're here for some reason.
Yes. I
I'm
don't know
sure
exactly
it
myself.
in some way.
I mean, I'm just saying this is something we should maybe, consider. Considering we all seem to have decided to save the world and everything.
I'm not here to save the world, just kill dragons.
Well, it's kind of the same thing right now.
Yes.
Coincidentally.
Now, my opinion is that what happened was necessary, but I would request that we try and minimize collateral damage.
But
as much
half
as
of them were already frozen anyway.
Dragon was mostly freezing the outside of the city. Probably looking for Dengathwin, who he thought had snuck away somewhere. That's my guess, anyway.
It was some kind of rage explosion either way. I'm not sure it was aiming for anything in particular.
Well, anyway, it happened. I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I did know the explosion was going to be pretty big because I told the crew to pack all the medical units around.
No, that's fine.
Nice.
Saying, if we get another chance, we should.
Very nice.
But I was aiming for the dragon. I didn't expect the dragon to explode quite so magnificently, but it did, and
Chunky.
it was a bit smelly. But these things happen, and look, we saved the city, kind of. They will rebuild.
We saved the city, Patrick.
Well, now they have a chance to do something other than being eaten by a dragon, at least.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, now they can eat the dragon by what I saw.
That's true. Oh, speaking of, I have something for you, Saket, because I'm going to need those science skills of yours. And I sort of haul out the sort of rolled up, what may have looked like a bedroll or something. It was, in fact, sort of rolled up sheath of dragon skin.
That's what that spell's been all this time. I've been wondering.
I know.
Honestly, I just...
Look, I've done my best to get rid of all the fleshy bits, but I'm not a tanner. I'm just saying this is a good chance to figure out what pierces this bastard and what doesn't.
Fair enough.
Why?
And you're the scientist, you know, experiment.
You want me to experiment?
Just, you know, figure out what goes through and what doesn't.
I'm just going to go
Okay.
lie over there and sleep.
You know, start with some scales so we're not ruining the whole thing.
I think first of all, turn it on its other side, and I will cast another firebolt at it, and hopefully the smell.
Can you do
Well,
that outside?
Don't burn it. Look out.
I'm not going to burn it. I'm just going to rid the flesh off.
No, but that'll sear the leather off.
Will it?
You have to scrape it.
I have to scrape it.
You have to
I
scrape
have
it.
to scrape it.
I can scrape it.
Okay.
I'm just saying you won't get rid of the smell by setting it on fire.
You sure?
I'm very sure that is the case with most things.
Maybe it'll smell better, you know, cooked flesh.
Yeah, you know.
In my experience, burning things gets rid of the smell in an interesting way because it comes out as a burnt smell.
That's true, but I don't really want to burn this thing.
Okay,
from one way or
fine.
another. I have plans for it.
So whilst all this is going on, I'm going to step out of the hut, but literally just step through the wall and no further, so that I can reach out with my druidic senses and get a feel for...
If you step out of my little hut, or my tiny hut, it will stop the spell, doesn't it?
No, it won't. People inside can come and go as they please.
Oh, okay. It's just me.
You
I
can
can't
go
go
out.
out because I have to live with the smell.
That's not where I'm literally...
Gone stumbling outside.
I'm smelling... I'm getting a sense of the night.
You guys said it. Okay. Well, I guess if once it's been scraped and cleaned, and then we can try a few things like acid splash and, you know, chromatic orb, shopping grass,
Yes,
which is
just
bolt. It's not like it's
Take a bunch of scales and throw stuff at it and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what you're going to be doing. Con, you are trying to get a sense of your surrounding areas. Are you using a spell to do that, or are you just
No, just
quietly contemplating?
druidic roleplay, really.
Oh, absolutely. And the sense that you get it's an unfortunate sense because the fog is incredibly dense. And what is perhaps more off-putting is that there is absolutely no sound. It is still, absolutely still, but not nature still. It is still because there is no nature. There are no little creaking frogs or buzzing gnats. There's nothing of the kind. It's just this stillness. And perhaps it's the fog dampening the spirits of everything around you. Perhaps the fact that it's nearly winter is another reason. But
There should still be something.
something out there. There's just nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, finding this rather unpleasant, so I don't spend too much longer out there, and I step back through the wall, shivering.
Why into this cacophony? All right, so you guys, your experiment. Sorry, Simon, you wanted to say something?
Nature boy.
I beg your pardon.
That's Lord Nature Boy to you.
Commodore Nature Boy.
Hi, Lord Commodore Nature Boy.
How long do you think you will need to get to this wretched city?
I don't know how far away we are. Is it swamp all the way there?
No,
It is.
there should
Well,
be some
almost.
land, but we should
Yeah,
we should try and approach the city from the west as if we were coming from the port city. Not just walk out of the swamp up to the city. That might look suspicious.
Hi, we're peasants.
Squelch, squelch, squelch.
It certainly complicates
We
things.
came
that we
from
can't-
mountain.
Yeah.
Hello, fellow
landscape
humans.
is in kind of,
With the skateboard, right?
cover.
Now, if we just go north from here, we should find the trade route between Yachut and Ulkov. And we could just enter through that. We should reach there by tomorrow afternoon or something.
Hmm.
I hope. Right. I'm going to sleep.
All right.
Yes.
I just have one question for you, Saket. What color is your dome? Your tiny hut?
I think it's not opaque from outside, right?
You can choose what color it is.
Is sort of the color of the rest of the
Rainbow.
In that case, it's pink.
It's pink.
It's
I'm not sitting inside here.
Swamp colored? Yes.
Oh, repels the vampires. They're
Yeah.
too cool to approach.
All right. So you all eventually settle down and slowly calm yourselves and try to get some sleep. The interior is nice and cozy. You know, outside is not so nice and cozy.
Before going to sleep, I spend some time with some raven feathers in my hands in what appears to be a sort of meditative state.
Oh, that's what you're doing. No doubt about it. You all eventually awaken the following morning. What time? There's no alarm clock sort of system, so do you just hope that the dome gets bright enough, or do you just wait until the dome dissipates?
I mean, the elves gonna finish their thing way early, anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at some point, they can just wake us.
Neither me nor Siket will actually do much sleeping, so we can just wake the others up when the sun comes up.
All right.
Sun
Okay.
comes up.
Well, it's also transparent from the inside, so the sun coming up is not a huge shift from night because of this perpetual fog that is everywhere. So it goes from inky blackness to a grey murk that sort of has a rather unsettling flavor to it. However, there are, I should say, 3 figures standing, looking rather impatient outside this dome.
Oh, joy. Well,
Great.
that lasted.
What?
Well, that went well.
Traders,
Well-
were we?
Well, you said it is hard to get
very
in and out of this place, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Suppose we got very lost.
Yeah.
Well,
Let
We took a wrong turn.
me dress up.
There. 2 of them are women and 1 of them is a man. The women look to be beautiful, as a matter of fact. Long, black, dark hair.
Oh, God.
One has it loose flowing around her head. The other one has it tied back in a rather cute little ponytail, I suppose you could say. The man doesn't look as if he cares about the weather. He's dressed in very tight leather. He is topless and has sort of chains around his neck and an armband, and looks sort of in his mid-20s, I suppose you could say.
Are they particularly pale?
Goodness.
Yes, they are incredibly pale. The nails are all black nail polish and black lipstick.
Going all the way to the rabbit hole.
Oh yes, they are indeed. They're living the life. They are living the life.
Shit, thralls. Well, let me get dressed.
Kind of looking around. Is everybody awake at this point?
Yeah, everyone is awake. Jorek, you can actually give me a history check, if you please.
History. Okay, I will give you
Guy,
Yeah.
can you tell me how long we have until the festivities?
14.
Yes. The festivities you now have, I think it's 6 days. Is that right? Tobias, you've been keeping track as well. I think it is 6 days.
It should be 6 days, yes.
Somewhere around there.
All right, cool.
It's about a week.
So when everybody is ready, if everybody is ready, I would step outside. Like if everybody is ready.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jorek's just gonna change clothes. It's not gonna look like Jorek.
Then after you change your clothes,
Yes.
which is then when everybody is ready.
Fine, I'm ready, okay?
Are you ready yet?
There is that kind of nervous. Oh wait, this is a hut, and we can see. I've got to change clothes. So there's a sort of the hopping and the changing of the shirt.
It's like the awkward, the cape around the body, awkward.
Yeah.
Like when you.
I roll my dragon scales back into my bedroll, just sort of discreetly tying it up.
Well,
I'm not going to flash that around.
Moist little cluster of.
So I would have my somewhat finer clothing on, by the way, guy.
Sorry, you have your.
I have my somewhat finer clothing on, even though I'm in a swamp. Just FYI.
Sure.
Yeah, I've prestidigitation. I can clean up any clothes you want.
Yeah.
And I then, when everybody is ready, step outside.
Probably everyone's ready. Yes, you get the general feeling of readiness. All right, you step out. Who's stepping out with him?
Me.
Sure.
I'm staying back.
I don't want to go out. 5 more minutes.
God.
Just one more chapter. One more chapter.
Jorek's gonna put on this performance of being someone who does not enjoy being here. It's like, I'm a trader. I need to be here to make money, but I don't want to, and I'm in the middle of a fucking swamp. How did I end up here? That's what he tries to portray.
Projecting, yes.
I'm not.
All right. Con, are you stepping out with them?
I
No.
think presenting a druid right off the bat maybe tactically not a great idea.
What's your job?
Wait and see what happens.
Yes.
But I am right there. I just have to take one step forward and I'm out of the hut.
All right, so you're kind of like standing right up against the wall. It's like,
One false move.
all right.
I guess I
Katie-
have to leave last because if I leave first,
Get walks out and there's Con.
That would be awkward when somebody gets inside, just like headbutting in the.
Indeed. All right, so the two of you step out, and the moment you step out, the three look at you. Your history roll, Jorek, revealed that you are definitely certain that one of those three is none other than Svetlansky, the daughter of Count Ulkov.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
She's known as a famous beauty amongst Drakenmoore and is considered one of the greatest catches that any of the other Duke's children could possibly get. She is quite stunning, and she knows it as well. Rumor has it that she likes to decapitate her lunch at a distance of about 50 feet and then dance in the fountain of blood that ensues. That's the rumor of how she basically engages her dinner guests. Whether that's true or not, nobody
I was just gonna say, this is Drakenmoore. This could just be a rumor.
It could just be.
It could also be true.
It's a rumor. It's a
Horrifying.
rumor. It's a rumor. As you step forward, you notice that when you step out, they don't immediately turn around. There's a period where they're almost waiting, and on their own terms, they turn and look at the two of you.
So before everybody was ready,
Mm-hmm.
did you share this information with us?
Jorek?
Who she was.
Mhm.
Yes, if I recognized her before we went out, yes, I would have shared that.
Okay. So then,
Obvious.
without waiting for them to look shocked and surprised as us staying outside, as they were waiting literally outside our door,
Yes.
I again make one of these deep, overemphasized bows.
Oh, you copycat.
I do this all the
So,
time,
yeah,
okay?
we both go out and do this flamboyant
Wow. Dramatically.
Synchronized groveling.
Good morning, milady.
Why are you in my swamp? She says as she drifts quite literally. She doesn't walk over the mud. She drifts over the mud towards you.
Well, we apparently took a wrong turn yesterday. We were heading for the city of Ulkov, but we ended up in here, and it was so dark that we decided to camp for the night.
You took a wrong turn 20 miles into a swamp.
Look, my navigator is not very good. Or navigator.
Hey,
Someone is supposed to find their way around here, and they don't find their way around here.
there's a muffled "hey" from inside the dome.
I have a Cathar with me who is supposed to know these lands, and apparently they don't, so I'm going to have to fire them when we get out of here.
Well, and I just ran into them. I was coming from the Sajed Empire, which is we're coming from the south, right?
Well, there is a mountain in the way, but yes. You're a tiefling, they might believe you.
I am here to see your father for the festivities, of course. I was sent by the Cabal for this momentous occasion.
You didn't tell me.
Well, I ran into you yesterday.
Yeah, they kind of look at you. They look from one side to the other. You got lost as well.
I am not lost.
You meant to come through Musha Bog.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but it is quite hard to get inside the Drakenmoore.
Our borders are always open. We don't turn anyone away.
Sure.
Well, then I'm happy to have met you. And I kind of brush some dirt from just overemphasize, just great! Kind of, right?
If you are here for my father's special festival on
Right, it
behalf
is within a week.
I am aware of this, yes.
Good. And I'm within time.
What have you brought him to show your devotion to him?
I have this.
This one!
You are.
Well, you did bring us a jet.
I say, I have a beautiful necklace. You got it, right?
Might I see this beautiful necklace?
I kind of
There
grab,
was festivity.
I kind of grab into a pouch and pull out like a necklace with, in the end, similar to before, a big ruby hanging, although this one being dim still. So,
She doesn't take it. She sort of looks at it. Well, I suppose you could give that to him if you think that's worthy of my father. Then I look forward to having you to dinner.
I kind of nod.
Father will be very pleased with that. The Cabals have gone all out. I'm surprised.
But it's not often.
It's very seldom. But I'm surprised. Now, you are so lost. We would be poor hosts if we did not escort you to Ulkov. How many are there in your party?
Oh, there's just the 5 of us. Or, well, 4 really, but I guess 5 now. And I gesture at the flamboyant.
I only see 2 of you.
Well, see, you.
They have bad hair.
They are still waking up. I can fetch them for you if you would like. And I bow and back into the hut again. Okay.
Right.
I kind of
Does
step
sound
forward.
travel in and out of the hut? Can I talk inside the hut without them hearing us outside? Yes. Okay.
Pretty sure you can.
All right. So the lady wishes to escort us to Ulkov. So get ready, pack up. And Con, would you look less druidy, please?
Less druidy. Oh.
Yes. We don't
What
want
do
to
you wanna
Produce
do?
my raven feathers once more, and I sort of wave them in a strange symbol, and then there's a weird shimmering of my form, and then there's a raven perched on somebody's backpack.
So, so the human's tiny hut doesn't specify if you can talk inside, can't hear it outside. It just says about magical effects, but I mean, you can just like whisper, I guess.
Yeah. All right.
I guess I'm taking my coat back for now, or are you still in need of it?
Okay.
All right.
you
You keep it. You keep it. You keep it. I don't need it. I'm fine. I just, wanted to look proper, but that's fine.
All right. For the simplicity's sake, Adresai.
Yes. Same as last time.
Yes. Thank you. And Seket, you are my servant.
What? No, that doesn't work at all. I'm sorry. No.
Just go with it.
Just go with it. You don't need to speak. Just let me handle everything. All right? Just look pretty. You're good at that.
We're gonna have words about this afterwards. I hope you realize.
Yes. I'm trying to not get us killed. Let's go.
I'm not happy.
You can drop the spell.
Nice.
I was sort of step outside.
Yes.
You
I
drop
perch myself on Atramentum's shoulder.
You have to move somewhere else. You drop the
Myself
spell.
on
I dropped the
Jorek's
spell.
shoulder.
Rowan, keep your bird in check, will you, please?
What you mean? Don't let it poop on you.
Exactly.
The
So
hut
who did you-
dissolves away into
Who
the
did you
ether.
give the bird's custody to?
It's a cat.
It's a cat, okay.
The three look at this assembled mess of individuals. You can, you can see that the young buck, the young bloke, the moment he sees Saket, he immediately starts to take interest. Now, why would you hide such a beautiful Sajet jewel inside such a garishly colored dome of magic? I wonder this for myself, huh?
Another one.
He says as he sort of floats forward towards you, Saket. He tries to take your hand. Do you allow him?
No.
And so bashful, too.
Well, she is a slave. What do you expect?
Slave now? Slave?
She's slave. In which case, I will buy her from you. This kind of beauty cannot be interrupted with chains.
No,
At
of
least
course.
not for
but-
long.
Let's not do business in the middle of this dreadful swamp, shall we? Let's go to the city and we can discuss it. But I will not let go of her easy. As you can see,
Tell me
she's
your
quite a beauty.
She could not be left entombed and entrapped here. Maybe you did not hear me.
Excuse me, you want to buy her here and now? In a swamp?
Yes.
I do not have that kind of paperwork ready, sir.
Indeed. I will have to refuse your offer, sir.
I mean, once I could get set up somewhere, I could write something up for you.
Go
But
on.
You said you were new here, so let me explain. I am son of Duke Ulkov. I have just offered you a very valuable price for a slave. To refuse is, how should I put it, dangerous.
Oh.
So what is your offer then? You have not mentioned the price yet.
The other woman slides forward and she says, You must forgive Luca. He is sometimes impulsive. He will pay you whatever you want for that bag of bones. It doesn't matter. But she's his now. It is easier this way.
I have objection.
Very well.
I was a 7 5 minutes ago.
Gold, whatever. It doesn't
Well,
matter.
5 minutes ago. I can't.
I telepathically tell Saket, calm down, we'll solve this somehow. Just try not to upset him.
You're so dead.
Well then, shall we go and we can discuss the price later, I suppose.
Do you think you can find your way out of this swamp since you have found your way into this swamp?
Oh,
I take off and start flying in high circles.
no, I definitely know where I went wrong last time. I'm very certain I can get you in the right direction now.
I had no.
It's better or I will fire you.
I understand. It was a mistake that I take upon myself.
I start heading towards the city. Northwest was it, right?
Northeast.
Also, weren't they supposed to escort us? Like, show the way already.
All right.
Yeah, no.
They start to drift along with you. There's the one kind of does it for about 10 minutes, and then she says, "This is boring. I'm going." And she literally just turns into this piece of fog and sort of dissipates and disappears off into to wherever she might be. Luca has not dissipated, and neither has Natashatsky. She has not left either. And as you're walking along, they don't walk, they float just slightly above the surface of everything. Very careful to kind of go around any moving parts of water, but there's very little that moves here, except downwards, basically, as you sink. Luca looks at you, Jorek. You have a very good eye for beauty.
I'd
But
like to think
the
so,
cat
yes.
confuses me.
Hmm.
What is her purpose?
Her purpose? Well, you see, I have noticed that, perhaps I shouldn't tell you this really, but when you are dealing with someone, it is very advantageous to have your opponent, while you're trying to negotiate the price, be very busy looking at something else and thinking about something else.
Hi, Candy. Yes.
That
And you
is
think
her
the
purpose.
Cathar does this for you?
Sorry, what?
The Cathar does that. She is destruction.
The Qatar? No, the Sajeti. The Qatar,
Why
she's...
do you have Cathar?
They're excellent administrators.
I'm very good at maths.
Yes. Maths, paper holding, all that stuff that I find so boring. Trading is what I burn for. The paperwork, not so much. So, that's it.
And the bird, he says, looking up into the fog. You
And
realize, Com, up here, it's pretty white in most directions. Are you trying to go in any specific direction?
Well, I'm trying to see what I can see, which is
Right.
nothing apparently.
It's just this white bank. How high up do you go?
Until I clear the fog.
All right. You've gone for a good few minutes, kind of slowly climbing your way up. It's just, unfortunately, the mechanics of flight. And it does take you a few minutes, but eventually you think you're not sure how high you are, but
Broken into the
It's pretty
sun.
high.
clearly you look into the sun as you break above this fog, and it's this brilliant light shining in
Your face.
It looks like it's a super splendid late autumnal day. Very clear. But from here is perhaps where there might be a certain amount of depression, because the fog bank extends in almost all directions indefinitely to the horizon.
So no castle battlements poking out the top or anything like that?
No, the vampires didn't leave one room in the top of their tower where you could break them just to allow sunlight through. They just didn't do that, sadly. Yeah.
Well, this could be tricky. As I start to descend back into the fog, listening for my companions.
It's not too difficult to hear them. They are the only sounds that make their way up to you.
The muffled screams of someone getting murdered by a tree somewhere.
Yeah. So Natashatsky looks at you at Trementum and she says, I don't understand why you were coming in from Sajet.
Yes.
And then you walked here and got lost in this swamp?
More or less. We should be fairly close to Ulkov at this point.
We're getting there, yes. We are getting there. You then happen to find these 3 individuals in the swamp as well?
Well, obviously.
Obviously, yes. Obviously.
But to be fair, there was a bright pink dome in the swamp, so we weren't very difficult to find.
No, you were not difficult to find at all.
I like pink.
Luca looks at you and he says, maybe where you come from is good for slaves to have voice. We don't like slaves to talk here. Make other noises, yes. How good is your moaning?
Oh, yuck. It's really bad. Like, really, really bad.
You are still talking. You must get beaten a lot for not understanding how things work. I relish the challenge.
She is Sijeti. They're very fiery, and to be fair, I have allowed her to speak before, so you might have to teach her that. Calm down, Siget.
I look forward to the challenge. Do you know we have a national religion? We are the only country in the world to have such thing.
Yes, I'm quite familiar with that.
No.
You do not walk into a country to trade without knowing the traditions.
Yet you would walk into a swamp in the country.
Well, that wasn't exactly planned, and I throw an eye at Adresai.
No, it was.
That damn bird of theirs.
Look, the
Oh, they
bird.
can find the way, he said.
It was not the bird's fault. I fully take responsibility for this little mishap, but you have to admit it was a very interesting little adventure.
Oh, yes. Fantastic adventure.
I will keep your clothes clean. If there are any tears, I will mend them. You know this. There are no consequences.
Except walking through a swamp and having to look bad to our lords. This will be visible on your pay, Rowan. Sorry, what?
Your entrance taxes.
My entrance taxes? They were paid in...
Jahut.
Yeah, in Yahut.
Very well.
15 gold pieces per head, as usual.
I would have thought you would have supplied a slave.
I don't trade in slaves most of the time. The slaves I have is the slaves I use.
That does remind me, what do you trade in? I don't see a wagon or...
Metals, mostly. Bronze and
Metal.
copper mostly, but unfortunately I have not been able to secure any load to bring in to Drakenmoore, but I am one of the best traders to sell ironwood abroad, so I figured I would have to bring gold this time. Not the metal I usually trade in, but it works.
It does indeed. It does indeed. For the next 2 hours, you are slowly and quietly interrogated by these forces of the vampires, questioning little things here and there, asking a few points where their interests lie. But after a while, they kind of get more bored. Eventually, Natashatsky actually leaves. She goes, I'll see you at the castle. It's done. And she just fogs and disappears, leaving only Luca behind. He looks, I am interested in these new opportunities of discussion with the outside world. The Cabal does not often send people here, and an ironwood trader and his feline accountant with a Sajeti slave lost in my swamp. We shall have to put up bigger signposts on the roads, I think.
Yes, that would be helpful. So even incompetent.
Sorry.
Does strike me as interesting why you left the road in the first place.
Well, what we were walking on was what I thought was a road, what turned out to be more of a flat length of swamp, in fact, and didn't really figure out that it wasn't a road until it was too late.
Yes, I heard
think,
this
Thomas.
excuse already.
It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. The excuse is that I made a mistake that I am terribly sorry for, and you've already said that you're going to garner my wages for it, which I have of course agreed to.
Fine.
Happily, considering that this was all my fault.
I don't really understand all of your problems here, but it has been a good day of trading, yes? Or at least, hopefully, it will be a good day of trading for you. You will bring that one to my father's castle when you arrive in Ulkov, no later than sundown this evening.
Mm-hmm.
You should now be able to find your way freely to Ulkov. It's not hard.
Thank you.
As you wish, my lord.
He bursts into a sort of a collection of bats, and they all sort of fly off, skittering and shrieking as they do so. Khan, you sort of see this fluttering break away and leave everybody.
So she gets wages. She gets wages, and I don't. I'm a slave. I'm a slave, but she gets wages.
They might still be here. Calm down.
Dead. So dead.
We'll figure it out. For now,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for now, you can be an undercover operative, as it were.
Right now, she's keeping us alive.
I'm keeping you alive.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously for my own entertainment later.
All right.
Well, I need to start preparing invisibility again, I see.
Yes.
Yeah. Takes you another hour, but eventually you clear the swamp, and you notice that what the current farming method is basically to burn every piece of foliage around to dust and just survive on these large blackened, flattened areas, I suppose you could call it, with these very sad-looking cattle munching away. It looks like oats and things that have been imported from clearly somewhere else. But generally speaking, there's very little foliage. There are some, as you start to pass through a few little houses here and there.
So stuff does actually grow here.
It does, yes. And as I was about to say, as you pass some of these little houses, these little hamlets of people, no one pays any attention to anyone. And, well,
That's surprising.
at least nobody seems to pay attention to anyone as they studiously go about their business, keeping their eyes downcast and not wanting to know a thing. But there are these little boxes that have got cages built around them. And inside are these very, very pale-looking plants, incredibly grey almost in their coloration, that eke out an existence. Every now and again, there's this weird punctuation of color amidst this predominantly grey and dark brown landscape of, is it a bush of tomatoes? You're not sure. It's completely encased in metal, in a metal cage. And the tomatoes are, you call them red, but really they look sort of bruised and not particularly healthy, but they're clearly prized because they're in the middle of a cluster of houses as you make your way through. It's probably around about midday when the large, dominating Gothic structure of Ulkov Castle appears on the horizon. It's more of a shadow in amongst the fog than anything else, but the population around us started to get busier and busier, and eventually the road starts to turn from just mud into cobblestones and paving, and the population starts getting busier. Most of the houses are double-story. It's a very simple sort of Tudor-style architecture, but instead of the whitewash, it's more of a grey-brown wash on very black timber, giving the entire place an entirely festive feeling, however, is in the very center of the town, which eventually you get to without any difficulty. And in the center of town is a thing which Jorek, you know to be called a Dabansky. And a Dabansky is this gigantic metal vat. And it has the motif of bats all over it, carved beautifully all over it, with people bowing some on their knees, some are bowing at the waist, but all of them are in supplication around the base of it. And at the top of it, forming a nice, neat motif at the top, are 5 very beautiful looking humans with their arms extended, touching fingertip to fingertip, rising above the bats and above the bowing people. Now, at Dabansky, Jorek, you know this, the rest of it's easy enough to find out, is part of the festival of Tomadansk, which is the blood moon. And it's basically just a little festival, lovely, you know, everyone gets together, meat is shared, the one tomato is probably cut up into little pieces and everyone kind of gets a little piece. Wherein the entire village and all villages around the country will do this, gather together and then slowly, one by one, walk up to the Dabansk. There's actually a little stairway that runs up the side of it because it's about 6 foot high. Probably about 6 foot wide as well. And then very neatly, they just have to cut a certain part of themselves, any part, doesn't matter, and then they have to bleed into the drum for a little bit, just to give supplication, to give worship to the vampires. Once the entire village has contributed, the Dabansky will be sealed up and shipped off to Ulkov Castle, where the lords will dine upon it and know the gratitude of their people, and understand that every single person is part of this amazing, amazing dukedom, and all love the dukes.
I sort of retell this as we're walking under my breath.
And there is the common rumor that if you have betrayal in your heart, the vampires will taste it in the vat. And there are legends of Dabanskys having the taint in them of defiance, of rebellion, of dissident thoughts, and the vampires arriving and annihilating the entire village to prove that one should not have these sort of thoughts, and that your neighbors should make sure that you don't have these thoughts, because it's in everybody's best interest if everyone is just happy.
I also add that in the lands of Drakenmoore, the people are quite downtrodden, and any usage of magic will definitely draw attention that we do not want.
Right, got it.
So are we going to explain? All right, so we're not supposed to have magic, but I cast like a magic dome.
They don't know you did it.
Well, they know somebody did it.
Somebody did, and that's probably why they even found us.
So I mean, out of game. So basically, what you're telling us is that they know if somebody casts magic, or is it just
no? It's just that if someone, say a
Sees
villager,
you
sees
casting,
us use magic, that's going to start a rumor. That's going to get to someone. That's going to get to
Yeah.
someone. And someone's going to be very curious about who's going around throwing magic.
Yeah, okay.
That's
I mean, I'm obviously the magic user of the group. So, if, anyone asks about the dome, it's,
right. It was on my request. I'll take responsibility for it. Don't worry.
And you were in a swamp.
Out of it.
I mean,
we're in the swamp.
And we are not citizens.
No,
So
we just want
we
to
could probably get
keep a low
away with it.
profile.
Had we been posing as citizens, it would have been way worse.
Yes. We would have had to get really vitamin deficient if we would want to pose as citizens in this place, because there are some serious issues here.
I know.
You say, sort of looking at the cadaverous people
Yes.
milling around.
It's like,
You
you're
notice-
telling me I grew up here.
You do notice that the people that walk past you, they are, how can I put it? They are specifically disinterested in your presence. They walk as if you totally don't exist. It's very unnerving to a degree. No one accidentally makes eye contact because they're purposefully not looking at you. There's little clusters of them. Maybe once or twice you see someone smiling as someone else has made a comment, but in general, it's very serious faces, lots of people moving around just not aware or literally just ignoring you completely, and moving about. Even if they sort of bump into you, they bump into you and they apologize, not to you, but sort of to the space around you, and then move on again as fast as you can. And I'm not channeling Tokyo underground at all.
No,
It's
it's
not
all
like this everywhere.
vaguely familiar in some
Yeah,
ways.
out here in the villages, this is pretty common. You don't interact with anyone unless you're at home. In the cities themselves, it's a bit more social, but it's still, if you're out in the street, don't mess with people.
so you're talking about Sweden or Draken?
Yeah, pretty much. Don't mess with people. Don't give them a reason to acknowledge you. Because if they don't get on the wrong side of people, that's what I'm trying to say.
No, let's just get to the.
During all of this, I'm just sort of spend my time between sort of flying near orbits of the group as they move into town. Occasionally I'll perch myself on Adrasai and then launch myself off again.
I give him some jerky or something whenever he lands.
As
I'm
you get
keeping an
closer-
eye out.
Yes.
Keeping an eye out. I'm operating as scout at this point, looking for anyone who's paying us too much attention, considering everyone's studiously not paying us attention.
Yes.
And I'm also occasionally looking thoughtfully at this big open blood donation vat and wondering when my next bowel movement's coming.
You're gonna get the whole village murdered.
Yeah, that would not go down well. You
Tastes
have
like
noticed
defiance.
that there is actually an increase in ravens around. More so than perhaps you would normally associate with a town like this. And you notice there's lots of rats everywhere, sort of scurrying around. What they live on, you have no idea. But there's definitely an increase in vermin around. You sort of land on roofs, ravens look at you with their beady eyes, squawk or call. Some of them kind of try and defend their territory as they are wont to do.
Pea-brain.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, the one that you said that to looks at you with these sort of big, very beady black eyes. It doesn't respond, and then it eventually, because you kind of made a different noise, very slowly and lazily flocks off.
Piss off.
Someone walks along. Did you hear that? Did that raven just say "piece off"? Not possible. Ravens.
No, of course not.
as they continue on. All right, what are you doing? You're in Ulkov itself, the gigantic castle.
So, tell me if I'm wrong with this assumption, but I assume that the nicer houses usually are the ones that are closer to the castle.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what I would be, I don't know if anybody else wants to head somewhere else, but I would be heading generally towards the castle once we're inside.
And
And
my plan was to find inn, if there is one.
My
as close to
plan
the castle as possible.
is to get to the person who would like to be the tailor of the Duke. Because I've been traveling for a day through the mud. That sucks. And if I want to attend the festivities, I kind of need to be freshened up, so to say.
Do not look like commoners covered in mud.
Well, my clothings are fine. It is just like traveling, obviously, through the mud is not the best way, at least for the trousers.
I also need more clothes, but because I really ought to give Adressai back their jacket. But I guess, Jorek, you will have to arrange this for me now in your little guise.
Yes, Adressai, I would. Would you find us the finest inn that exists? This is Drakenmoore, but find us one.
Sure, if you'll trust me to navigate my way to an inn.
Oh, don't worry. I trust you. I'm Barbarossa.
I know. This is so much fun. I'm just kidding. I don't think it's fun.
Yeah, huh? Mm-hmm.
We are going to
Right
have to
here.
find a way to get Siket out of this mess I put her in, though.
Yeah, that's the least you're going to be doing.
Indeed.
By the way, do vampires burn?
They do.
Wonderful news. Wonderful.
All right, so let me get our head straight here. Con, you're flapping about, just having a gawk and a gander at life. At Trementum, you're going to look for a tailor. Jorek and Siket, you are...
We're going to stand around looking important until Adressai returns with...
All right,
No,
and
we're going to
Adressai is
find
going
me
to...
some clothes. I need clothes. It's freaking cold.
It is cold indeed.
I am not suitably attired at all. And have you seen the bottom of my dress? I
I
mean,
know.
it's
Adressai can fix
torn. And
Fine,
the
fine.
Anderstein is suspiciously clean. It's like
So-
mud, clean.
I guess we go
Siket
find
going
a
with
tailor
Adressai.
then.
Yes, you can come with me and we'll, sort things out.
All right.
with clothes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Con, as I said, you're not staying with any one particular group. You sort of pop
I
around.
am, yeah, I mean, I am having rather a lot of fun flying, and it's occasionally distracting me. But I'm trying not to stray too far away from the group, and I am still paying attention to just...
Oh, wow.
That's
It
true.
just now hit me that you're actually flying.
I know.
One bird! He's been a bird for some few hours now.
It's like now
Doesn't
it's like,
show
I
any
just
sign of
I
changing.
had a
He was
moment
dry
of
humping
comment on it.
feathers.
In 12 months' time, when Con kind of looks over and some raven goes, "What you doing?" He's like, "Oh my God, that's right. What am I doing?" That's off. The
There
rest
just
of the
hasn't
world's
been a
burned
moment to
around
comment on it so far.
him.
Vampires
all
and
right.
scary people.
Would you please give me a perception check, Con, as you are flitting about the place? having fun?
Certainly. That would be 14.
14. All right. Is it your imagination? No, it's not your imagination. There are two figures that, when they walk along the streets, the people around them part as the river did before Adressai earlier yesterday, and are very reverent of these two beings. But they are definitely not vampires. They have to, unfortunately, plod the cobblestones, and every now and again they'll stop. And they'll point at a person in the street, and the person will come scurrying forward. There'll be a brief discussion, and you notice that every now and again one of them hands something to one of these individuals dressed in these heavy black cloaked sort of garb, and then they get dismissed, and these figures continue moving. Eventually, these figures meet up with. There's no doubt about who this individual is. It is a large, fat man rather sort of portly description. And he swaggers about the place. He is the only one here who doesn't immediately bow and scrape when one of these black-cloaked figures approaches, but has a sort of a largesse about himself, and the figures approach, and there's general waving of hands and chatting. And
I'm going to try and get close enough to hear what they're saying.
Yeah, you kind of float in, and you listen to this heavy Drakenmoorian dialogue being exchanged. Effectively, the two figures are describing a report that they have received from their lordships. There is a new trader, two new traders, as a matter of fact, who were supposedly lost in the swamp that have arrived in town. One of them has goods that has been purchased by his lordship, and the goods are to be delivered this evening to the castle. If the sheriff sees these individuals, and they give fairly accurate descriptions of a Cathar, and then a beautiful Sajet bitch, ripe for the plucking, is what they describe the slave as, and then two ponces. One's a tiefling Kabbalist, but they don't believe that they actually trade or travel together. The other one is some human idiot, or elvish, whatever. They don't know, not local, don't care. But they have been requested that neither the Kajabar, which you're not sure who those are, or the sheriff interfere with these individuals. Unless they try and leave Ulkov City, in which case then they can kill everybody except for the Sajeti. All right, that's what you're hearing.
I don't know what this episode's going to be called.
Frustrated by a distinct lack of understanding as to what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I slap off into the air again, searching for companions.
At Trementum, you get to Taylor's shop. It must be the one that you're looking for, because it's got quite colourful clothing in it. And
so basically, what I will try to get is an upgrade or a side grade to what I'm wearing. Like, I assume these kind of puffy kind of pieces for the neck. I guess wide. I don't know. That's why these Renaissance kind of these
called the ruff. Yep.
Ruff. Yeah. Okay. I don't know the English word for it, obviously, because that's not a word I needed to use in English before. Who would have thunk? And just like get a little bit more appropriate for the kind of local kind of
Sure. Not a problem.
Exactly. And I think a tiefling looks quite fine, and gothic looks as well. So
I think so. Those are red and black.
Correct. You can chalk off 35 gold is what they'll charge you for something like that. Have to make some alterations, but it should be ready.
So, and then I would be heading a little bit closer to the. I'm pretty closer to the castle at this point. You said, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The defining feature of the castle is it has this very broad, wide road running around its almost circumference.
Right. So, and you said that this isn't less of a functional structure. This is more of a ego thing.
Absolutely. Right? It really is like a gigantic cathedral, just with not a north and south tower. It's got multiple bell towers and structures around it.
All right. So what I will then do is kind of take a look around and see if the place is extremely lively, or I'm actually looking for the absence of that.
Yes, it is incredibly well avoided by the population. These streets, when you stand in them, this sort of circumnavigational street is almost devoid of people. Every now and again, you see someone who sort of steps into it, and then very quickly and very as far away from the edge of the castle as they can, sort of rushes to the next side street to then go down. Patrolling the structure itself, however, are these very mechanical-like moving guards. dressed almost entirely in black plate mail. They have these very long flowing cloaks with the symbol of Ulkov on their back.
So would I think they are more like magical, like a golem or whatever, or is this more like an undead kind of thing?
As you get closer, it's they are literally animated skeletons.
Okay,
And
so
as you get closer, they
glad
immediately
in our
turn and
heart.
start watching you.
I see. Well, if they are watching me, that is exactly what I don't want. I don't want anybody watching me. And then I'm still uncomfortable being watched, and I make doubly sure that not being watched. And then I turn invisible.
All right. So that's what you're doing for the rest of the afternoon, I suppose. Adresai and Saket, you are trying to find an inn of some kind, or are you going clothes shopping first? Clothes shopping is easy.
I think in first, we can sort of get rid of stuff.
All right. There are two options that present themselves to you as far as you can see. Neither of them are particularly exciting. The inns are, well, they're very functional. There's very little festivity happening in the inside of them. You walk in and it's like, do you smell that? I don't smell spilt alcohol or urine or vomit anywhere.
Place.
Smells like dust.
Yes. And there is a fire sort of dying in the hearth. A heavy oaken bar. There is vast quantities of alcohol behind the bar, and these very, very neat laid out tables. Several people are sitting there very quietly nursing drinks. Again, none of them look up and stare at you at all. The innkeeper looks at you. You want rooms? Fine. 5 silver person.
Silver.
Well,
Did he really say silver?
Yeah. Sorry, he doesn't say silver.
Half a gold.
Electrum. Make electrum.
Yeah,
That's never
Electrum is
used.
probably the currency. Yeah. Just to confuse everyone. Yeah, Electrum's a good call. All right, they use Electrum now. I'm going to write that down. I like that. No one else ever does. Electrum is now the
Other than Dark Sun.
Yeah.
And,
Then I'm going to order 2 rooms, I suppose, sort of assuming that the tiefling isn't actually with us and won't need a room on our sort of board. So 2
fine.
rooms. The best ones that you have, if there's a difference between them.
He has ones with 4 and ones with 3 walls.
Yeah, he kind of looks at you. All rooms are same, but we'll give you best, yeah?
Thank you.
You are strangers in this town.
Very
Do you
strange.
want to add in, he says, looking you up and down, the blood tax, or will you risk being chosen for a lottery?
How much exactly is the blood tax?
How many are you in your party?
3.
2.
No, this.
Cicada sold.
Oh yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I suppose 2 now, but I mean 3 for now. I think the handover is. Let's just say 3.
Blood tax is 75 gold.
25 per head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that seems reasonable.
Good. I
It's a
get
little
your
confusing that I pay it to you, though. I mean, are you the go-between? Or I'm sorry if I'm not entirely familiar with the customs here.
You are strange foreigners. It's okay. You don't have to be sorry.
Thank you.
Not just foreign, we're strange.
Very strange.
I will pay it on your behalf. A service of tavern for strangers in our wonderful city. Yeah?
Do I think he's ripping me off?
Give me
I'm
an insight
100% ripping you off.
Like, is he just trying to
50%
steal
markup
from
on
me?
that tax there.
You can give me an insight check. Give me an insight check. Go for it.
Oh no! It's a 1.
It's a 1. Yeah, as you
This
you're
sounds reasonable.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Reasonable
as,
business decision.
yeah, as you're saying that, one of the people in the bar sort of steps up. looks over at the two of you and goes, "So you've paid the blood tax, eh? Very important to pay, yeah?" And that kind of just convinces you that he's not.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
this must be
if
legit.
people
I
say
mean,
it, like-
here is a total stranger supporting the blood tax. It must be real.
I mean, obviously. No, I pay up.
All right, so chalk off your
Like
76 gold, basically.
Yes.
Because of the 2 rooms.
I think I'll pay for a few days in advance for the rooms. So let's
I want to
say,
stay here a few days. Are you crazy?
look, I don't want to, but I think that's the sort of appearance we want to give.
How many days?
48 hours from now, we'll be walking away as the castle explodes behind us.
18 days?
No. If I
no.
give you 80 gold, then that will be, what, 4
Eight.
days?
Yeah.
Yes, then that's fine.
All right, good, fine, absolutely.
I can't believe you
Be here
idiots.
for 4 days. I just say. And are we sharing a room?
Well, you don't mind that, do you?
I mean, we've had this discussion before, and you got very, very touchy. But as long as you're of the,
Look, I can turn around. I don't mind sharing a room with a woman.
Yes, but
It's like not like you're, a woman being a slave at all. I sort of flee up to the room.
Wow.
You use your racial trait, sprint.
Meanwhile, we see the tavern at the distance. Just
It started.
Mushroom cloud.
All right, so
Any other taverns around?
We're done with this one.
eventually, Con, are you going to return to this herd?
Once it starts getting dark.
All right, yeah, the sun is going to start
But
setting.
in the meantime, I do want to do a flying casually, do a circuit. I'm going to get a layout.
Mr. Star Wars, like, try to fly casually.
Getting a sense of the layout of this cathedral castle place. So I'll do a couple of circuits of that before it gets too dark and then return.
Okay. Ulkov is like many vampire cities, built fairly far away from any gigantic rivers, any large lakes. It's pretty much out in the middle of a broad open plain of this blackened earth. And the fog doesn't ever seem to let up. It really is just this pervasive thing everywhere. You now estimate it probably extends about 800 feet up into the air. It is a significant incantation that must have been cast, or multiple casters were involved, obviously. The castle itself, you see the same things that Atramentum saw in terms of there are guards that patrol. Not a huge amount of them, but they're very mechanical in their movements. The ravens don't go anywhere near the castle. You sort of watch how they move. And the ravens basically also migrate around the town in circles as they sort of hit the breakfast where there's bread that's possibly thrown out. Then they go for lunch sort of around the side of the city. The city itself radiates out from the central structure. There is a rather large graveyard on the southern side of the city, which extends quite some distance. Again, the ravens seem to avoid that area as well.
Which areas are avoided?
The graveyard in the south.
Graveyard, the cemetery. Okay.
Correct. The
Cemetery in
yeah.
the castle. Well, I mean, I tend to follow suit, so I don't stand out.
It's easy enough to do so.
And then I fly back to the inn.
Just a pretty much ordinary working city.
Yeah, the specific observations I was looking to make was just in general, like, obviously I can see down into the grounds, get a sense of how many guards are patrolling and so on and so forth. But
the actual castle of Ulkov Castle there's no inner bailey, so there's no inner courtyard as such. It's just all of this Gothic architecture stacked on top of itself as a larger base with multiple little towers around, and then a central tower, if you like, in the middle, which
that's right.
rises up as a sort of a cascade towards the top of it, which is this tower that looks out over the entire city. Although it's not so useful from here because, well, there's fog everywhere. So from the upper tower looking down, you would be lucky if you see the tops of the other towers through the fog. You certainly don't see the city.
Is that thick?
It is quite pervasive, especially around the castle. You notice that it seems thicker. Perhaps it's just your imagination, but it does seem a bit darker here than when you're outlying areas of the town. Indeed. Eventually, you make your way back to the tavern. At Trementum, you've turned invisible.
Yes. Again, making sure not being watched by ravens, by rats, by people, by bacteria. So I have another question then. These undead skeletons that are patrolling the grounds.
Yes.
Are skeletons able to perceive sound?
Sound is an interesting one. It doesn't really kind of go into that space. So, yeah. I'm busy looking now. I don't think that.
I mean, it's a decision from you as a dungeon master. That's why.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that skeletons cannot perceive sound.
Okay. Otherwise, I would have said in their heavy armor, especially with the fog.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right. So what I will do then is invisibly and still trying to be silent and not leaving tracks and stepping into mud and whatnot, right? Like being just careful.
Sure.
Going up to the walls and taking a look about their masonry work and such.
The masonry work of the actual the castle itself.
Yeah, like is it like super smooth or is it like how big are the individual?
Yes, so it is very smooth. Well, it would be if it hadn't been covered in Gothic architecture.
Right,
so,
that's why I ask, right? Like there are many like gargoyles.
Every bloody window has got 16 outer curves, and every little.
What kind of stone is it? Is it like a sandstone that is fairly?
No, it looks like it's dolerite, very heavy black stone.
Cool. I climb.
All right, you start climbing up. Do you
Should
have a
be
climb?
fairly easy if it is like.
Not difficult at all. Yeah. How high are you going?
How high can I go? So you said this is not a defensive structure, so I assume there are like these like multicolored windows, maybe, which you would assume.
Absolutely. Yeah, large
balcony and such. So what? Let's say 2 stories high, whatever. Like I'm looking for an entry point. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, I see. Yes, not a problem. You kind of climb up 2 stories. You get to one of the landings. There are several of these animated corpses kind of staggering around. They blindly look past you. They don't seem to notice you whatsoever. And then, yes, there are indeed large wooden doors that seem to communicate with the interior.
Cool. Taking a look-see around, are there any openings that are open? Or are all the balconies, the doors to the outside, are they closed and shut?
The windows don't open. They're not designed
that makes sense.
to open. They're decorative more than anything else. The doors themselves, none of the doors are open. Okay, searching around for a little bit longer if there are any open ones. If I don't find any open ones. No, none of them are open. They have no reason to. I go over to a pair of these doors and take a look at the hinges and make sure that they don't say squeaky squeaky on them. Give me an investigate check as you're looking at these heavy doors, if you please. Yes. Investigation? Yes, please. 15. So the doors themselves don't seem to be... The doors themselves are in remarkably good repair, as a matter of fact. And don't seem to have too many reasons for squeaking. They're just incredibly robust, very well built doors.
Then I take a look at this flag. Is it a flagstone? You say in English, I think, from the threshold, and see if there are any magic runes written on it.
Right.
Let's say
yes.
dispel magic here or some shit like this.
Beware, there is magic here. No, you can certainly detect that there is. It looks as if there is a glyph that's been carved over the door.
Over the door.
So over the actual door. So once
arch.
the door is opened, you suspect the glyph will go off, whatever it does.
All right, taking a closer look at this glyph. Can I see which one is it? Does it say bell?
Yes, you press it and it rings quite quietly. Let me just pull this up here quickly. So you look at it. It does look as if it's got some spells stored within it.
Cool.
It's holding something of some kind. But that's all you're going to get unless you do identify.
Well, I have ways to, but that's a little bit inconvenient right now.
There's a patch of air busy mumbling something. Should we investigate that? No, it's probably just the wind.
So yeah, I mean, on the balcony that I'm standing upon, are these guards positioned here too?
Generally speaking, wherever there is a landing or, well, not on the towers themselves because they don't actually have balconies, but usually wherever there's a landing, there are skeletons moving around. They're cheap labor.
Sure, they don't need to sleep and not to move. They don't care. No, I get it. I'm just annoyed. That's all. Okay, Plan B.
GM making things difficult for you.
Plan B. Plan B. We will discover next week when we return. We apologize for the technical issues that we've had in this episode, but they seem to have sorted themselves out now. If you don't stay for the review afterwards, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week as we discover what is Plan B. For those of you that stay for the review, let's see who Dice of Destiny says we'll be doing our review. That is number 2. Fuck off, it's me again. All right, well, there we go. My review was...
Are you using a coin?
Dice, these lovely dice. These glow-in-the-dark dice.
Oh,
For all
you
other...
love the dark dice.
3, 5, 4, just not 2 anymore. Anyway, yeah, it was a journey through a swamp where you met some vampires and then told them some rather interesting information.
I didn't lie. Again, I'm very careful not to lie.
Sure, absolutely. And you look at the geography and you're like, wait, what? Anyway, yes,
The mountains. It's not a big problem.
Yeah, climb gigantic mountains.
Didn't say that I climbed them either.
No, this is entirely true. You just happen to be 20 miles off the main road. But nonetheless, it's not suspicious at all. They're not vampires, totally paranoid. Anyway, so the vampires were met and a slave was sold, which was great. It's
No,
nice.
it wasn't sold. It wasn't sold.
They're stable, which is great. I can't wait to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Apparently in mourning. Or moaning, either.
Yes, moaning, indeed.
Yeah.
Jorek, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's great to be home. No. That's Jorek's experience right now. I have not missed this. But he's playing things very carefully. As you probably noticed, he didn't even question the whole selling of Sikat. Because he knows that doesn't work.
You don't question a vampire when
you don't question a vampire. You end up dead if you question a vampire. So he's trying to play for time mostly, trying to keep his group from not stepping in any traps. Adresai.
Is there a plan?
There is a plan, and it's not a good plan, but there is a plan.
It's not a good plan, but it's a plan.
It's 11% of a plan.
Well, that's more than no plan. So
I told you the plan is in 48 hours' time we'll be walking away from the city whilst it explodes in the background.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how it usually goes.
that's the 11%.
I won't tell you I've just rolled 12%, but that's fine.
Just
I mean, that's,
mumble, 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 explosion, mumble, mumble.
yes, just
Profit.
Skip ahead a week or two, and you'll just see, and it explodes, and everyone
It's
walks
just well, this is just a flashback. We're actually talking like we had actually 3 months.
We already did this.
How successful it was, and nothing went wrong.
away. There you are.
No, it didn't play out as I expected it. I didn't expect to get detected by the vampires like immediately.
Giant pink dome in the middle of a swamp with no trees at
I'm
all.
sorry.
Yeah. Did
In the
also
fall,
not expect
though.
vampires to show up. More expected, thralls,
Hunters.
people, not vampires, not all 3 children of the Duke Ulkov. So we'll see how this plays out. It's going to be difficult. But we'll see. Hopefully we'll end up alive. And not
You
dead.
have plan B?
Yes, burn everything.
Of course, I
Burn.
have Plan B. Well, they're annoying. So, I mean, this is stuff that I really like to play, right? These kind of set up things, trying to gather information, make it in a way that isn't exposing us right away, at least the true intentions. Obviously, coming from that direction, well, I mean, I could explain why I'm here, but it's a shitty explanation, so I'm fine that they didn't ask. Yeah, I'm making sure that I don't necessarily lie, just obfuscate the information a bit, right? I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And I just like kind of this interrogation thing. Obviously, it's dangerous to kind of move about alone, but like the character has a few ways to get away if need be. So, and we have no idea, man. This is a vampire. Even if you kill them, you don't kill them. So we kind of need information before we go in there blind. And that's kind of what I'm trying to gather right now. It's gonna suck, but oh well.
Yeah, and fighting vampires here is going to be worse than fighting a single vampire on a ship in the ocean.
Yeah. Yes, like we don't have an ocean, we don't have a river, we don't have like sunlight. That means we actually cannot kill the vampires here.
No.
It's impossible to kill them here. Mechanically, it is impossible.
Well, except you've got a large silver stake.
Doesn't kill them.
Doesn't kill them.
Kill them. It reduces them to 0 hit points.
And stuns them, but doesn't kill them. So
That's the best freeze frame I've ever seen. It went away.
So yeah, that's gonna suck.
Yes.
After we've got them down to 0 hit points, can we burn them? Okay, would that kill
They turn
them?
to dust. They turn to mist and fog and disappear.
Well, the only way, technically, you can kill them, but that's ridiculous, and that's not really as intended. And I don't really like to do it this way, because when they turn to dust, you can technically attack them 3 times with magic stuff and make them fail 3 death saves, and then they die. But that's bullshit, because that's not as it is intended.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like to do things because they work technically, but they're not intended. I think I like to
make
say
sense narratively too.
Yeah, narratively, and I think it also like the intention with what the kind of the romance, the fantasy of the thing is. I think is much more interesting to go with it, and that's how I operate this character, at least with the knowledge, because I would assume being sent to kill a vampire, he kind of knows how to kill a vampire. Or what doesn't kill a vampire, right? So, but oh well. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward if I can gather information, or if there are other kind of trapdoors and alarm spells and whatever. I'm sneaky as fuck, but they don't make it easy. So looking for.
They just put one glyph on the door, that's all.
On every door, and every door is closed. Then there's nothing like. You said this wasn't defensive.
It isn't.
They just don't like the cold, man.
Don't like the cold. Yeah. So, Kat, you've been sold into slavery.
Well,
Isn't that fun?
yes. Someone's going to burn for this.
She's not technically sold yet because I haven't been paid, but you know.
Yeah. Mm.
Sure. You can take up that little litigious attack with the vampires and let they. Oh,
Also,
yes.
Kat.
You know, we do not pay you. You're right. It's all right. It's not ours yet.
Mm. Mm. I don't think she's very amused by this, and I think Jorek is definitely going to pay for this.
Yes.
I was a servant before we left the little hut. How did I turn into a slave?
You got downgraded. So.
Yeah.
But isn't that the
Wasn't just a
slave's
downgrade, that
lot
was
in
kind of falling down a stair.
One moment.
Indentured servant. He just left the first.
And I'm really glad to hear that vampires burn. I'm quite good at burning stuff, so
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. I think it's very good at burning.
Yes. I find it kind of funny that no matter how much I try to play Adversai as someone with actually quite high wisdom, the dice keeps contradicting me on that account. I keep ending up in these situations where Adversai is just this completely oblivious. Oh, blood tax! That seems like a wonderful idea, sir. Let me give you all of my money.
Yeah, he did unfortunately see you coming and he's like, oh, fuck it, let's try. Yeah, there's blood taxes, 75 gold. You gonna pay? You paid! Oh, I'm rich now. Yeah. So,
Holy shit!
Yeah.
The
yeah.
actual blood tax is actually 500 gold pieces, so you should be
Yeah,
happy you
that's
only
only-
paid 75.
It's only if you get drawn in the lottery and
Details.
yes, anyway.
No, I mean, I'll probably have a moment later with Jorek, sort of, oh, and I paid the blood tax, and he'd be like,
What?
What?
You did.
There hasn't been a lottery this week.
Kid? No, it's just, one of those hilarious moments of the dice. I rolled 120 and won this episode, so guess it evens out. But no, it's fun. It's really interesting. We've got this sort of whole horrifically hostile territory, target-rich environment, as I like to call it, where,
where you're the target in a
Yes,
rich
yes,
And they are rich.
Details.
They are rich.
And no, it's just like, we have to get in, get your sister, and get the fuck out. And it's like, it's not as simple as that, but I feel like as long as we don't necessarily get bogged down in trying
In
to...
the swamp.
In swamps, yes, then we might be okay. As long as we don't get bogged down in a swamp, we'll be fine.
And Con.
You mean?
Piss off.
I was quite pleased to discover an animal that can talk, that I can turn
Right.
into.
Yeah.
So that was the primary reason behind the raven. Also a bit of meta gaming there. I
Sure.
expected there to be ravens in a
Ravenloft.
vampire setting
Yeah.
to blend in, but obviously from Con's perspective, I am not running this mission. I am in support role.
I am not part of this disaster.
No idea.
Whatever
what's going
happens, it wasn't my idea.
on. I'm
This
just
is my
going
project.
to keep my eyes open and be ready to start killing things when it all goes wrong.
When it all goes wrong.
Yes.
I like the optimism there. All right, well, when it all goes wrong is next week as the adventures of the week continue. Well, does it?
That looking
Come
for
on, guys. We all know it's going to go
I
wrong.
take Nancy.
And then the castle will blow.
And then the castle will blow up. That is the nature of things.
Yay!
So there we are. All right, until next week, thanks for watching and thanks for being with us for this review. And we will see you all again next week on the Adventures of the Windswift. Till then, goodbye.